We are live. Hello and welcome to PropTechBuzz, a business podcast on global PropTech, where we talk to founders, CEOs, and now VCs on this channel to learn about how to build and manage successful PropTech companies. Before I introduce my guest today, I just want to make an announcement that our podcast has reached a good milestone, healthy milestone of 1,300 subscribers, and we are also on Spotify now. So Spotify has gotten we just launched on Spotify 2 weeks ago, but we have already achieved 500 listeners on podcasts on Spotify who have moved from YouTube. So if you're a listener who would prefer audio only, so go and subscribe, follow us on Spotify, and also give us a rating, because we know for sure that there are so many repeat listeners who come to our podcast. So that is a testimony that you like our content. So if in that case, please give a rating on Spotify, because that way what happens is we are high on the search algorithm. Please do the same also on YouTube as well. Hit that like and subscribe button, because then we reach a wider audience. With that, let's welcome our guest today. Our guest is Abhijeet Pai. Abhijeet is the founding partner at Gruhas. He is the second generation entrepreneur and hails from the family behind Puzzolana. It's Asia's largest crushing manufacturer, and Abhijeet's approach to supporting entrepreneurs is backed by his penchant for building capital efficient companies, creating long term value and impact. He has been instrumental in turning around businesses in the steel and consumer space, and led a $12.5 million strategic purchase and partial ownership exit in Lotus Chocolate to Reliance Consumers in 2022. With Gruhas, Abhijeet sets a stepping stone for budding PropTech, climate tech creator and consumption entrepreneurs with his expertise and his understanding and market insights. So, as you can see, I read out a template description of him, but we are now going to switch to a mode where Abhijeet will dig deep on some of these things that he has been doing and his vision and mission of what he is up to for the next few years. With that, let's welcome Abhijeet. Abhijeet, welcome to PropTechBuzz. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, Ravi. Thanks for having me.
The pleasure is mine, Abhijeet. So before we get into the meatier stuff of PropTech and what is Gruhas into, why don't you share a bit about you? About your association with Gruhas and then Puzzolana.
Sure. So, I'm a mechanical engineer, studied in England, come from a typical middle class family, right? So, 2005, I came back from university, and as the India story goes, we saw a huge surge in infrastructure. That meant that as an engineer and a family with experience in fabrication, we wanted to explore what was needed, right? And we focused on the line of crushing. We tried to make crushers more in-house, more Indian, save, dollar um, imports for the country, right? And once we started replacing imported products, we found that the engineering quality in India was par excellence, and not just from a manpower perspective, but even from a technology and an innovation perspective. So, with that as a core, we started building some of the best machines that are. We were the first ones, probably in India, and a second one in the world to make a diesel electric, crusher, and which was mobile. So, and today that's the norm of the world, right? But
So
we create.
not sorry to interrupt you, Abhijeet. Not many of my listeners would understand crusher. That is your familiar domain, I understand. But could you just, in layman's term, what does crushers mean?
A crusher basically is a construction equipment which is used to crush stone into aggregate sand. The same crusher is also used to process potentially waste into, biofuel inputs, right? So a crusher is used for basically sizing any type of materials, be it iron ore, be it cement, be it aggregate, be it gold, be it waste. So the whole cycle of products. So it's one of the core products to any sort of infrastructure and recycling.
Okay, it is common across geographies all over the world. People use the
All
crushers.
over the world, all over the world. If you want to see how construction industry or waste industry is doing, or the recycling industry is doing, the first point of call would be the crusher business.
Ah, nice. And
So
and it seems like Puzzolana is a big player there, right? It's Asia's largest, I suppose.
yeah, 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 yeah. And we were very proud that we've not only held the Chinese at bay, but we've also been one of the forefront at the forefront of technology innovation, like I said, to make a diesel electric, large machine, much like the transformers have. Like, these are massive machines. If you saw the transformer movie, one of the transformer is actually at the crusher site, right? So
Ah,
these are massive mining sites and aggregate sites, where these machines play, and now we made them mobile by making them diesel electric. The hydraulic world was always there, but the electric world is very new, and we at Barcelona are quite proud of the fact that it's all been made by Indian technology and Indian engineers, for the global consumer, right? So it is with the intention that it can work in sub-freezing conditions to 50 degrees, and service be as friendly and as simple as possible. So that was really my first stint at infrastructure and construction. So understood construction up close. We were at the entry point of most construction projects. Understood PropTech from there, and then the journey had begun there really in 2005.
got it. So that was about Barcelona, and then how did Gruhas happen?
Gruhas was, but completely by chance. Once success hit me, come 2012, 13, started investing in a lot of tech companies. The Indian tech world and the Indian tech industry really, if you were successful, you had to be a part of the industry. It was always real estate, back in the day, but come 2012, 13, 14, the angel ecosystem grew, and once the angel ecosystem grew, a lot of people actually took note of the fact that early stage investing was something which was of great interest. So I started doing that early 2012. My first company, I was lucky, was at about 70 times in about 2.5 years, and that meant I kept investing. Gruhas happened to me about 2.5 years ago, when one of the stalwarts of Indian tech industry and a founder of Zerodha decided that we should do something to disrupt the real estate and prop tech ecosystem. The old economy and the new economy weren't meeting, and how the real estate world works is not something that a lot of tech entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs of the new age actually enjoy transacting with, right? So our intention was to see how can we make it more sustainable, democratic, and accessible, for the larger masses without the kind of problems that are seen. So our original attempt was that, or thinking was that maybe we should look at fractionalization, right? And can we do fractionalization? But then very quickly we also understood regulation is not yet ready for fractionalization. But we felt the need to disrupt was very prevalent. So in order to make it even more impactful, we decided that we will not only back fractional ownership, but we'll start looking at backing multiple disruptors in the prop tech, clean tech space, such that we can make a difference in the ecosystem and become, catalysts to some of these early stage ideators and startups that are looking to, really resolve the problems that the real estate infrastructure construction industry face, not just domestically but globally.
So I'm sure whenever VCs have sectoral focus, they know about that industry like the back of their hand. Give us some macro trends that you see which makes you bullish to focus on this sector and help some of these companies succeed. So what are some of these trends? Give us a lowdown of the potential of the PropTech sector, primarily in India. I suppose your focus is on Indian startups, or there are no geographic boundaries.
Presently, I would say our largest focus is on India, but we are looking at certain assets primarily in the Middle East, right? And because there's so much overlap between India and the Middle East, but the focus area for us is sustainable construction tech and democratization. While there are multiple opportunities around SaaS for construction, we feel the material composition has not changed or evolved an awful lot. We still use cement and steel the way we used to, and these are polluting industries, obviously. So now, with so much recycling on the anvil, and the fact that most like countries, especially in the West and some in Asia, have now gone towards the carbon neutral pledge for 2050. We feel it's the right time to innovate and back companies that can help do so. For instance, one of the companies we've backed is a company called Serant, which is a brick company, and the brick company basically is looking to disrupt by using 70% fly ash, which is a known phenomenon, but they're also looking to put recycled plastic to a tune of 3 to 4% of the 70%. So plastic can be solved for as well, right? And this is the kind of innovation we believe will make our country, because our country or in the globe, more sustainable. I think carbon neutral bricks, bricks is one of the highest polluting industry, especially red bricks, right? And which is prevalent in a market like India, right? It's not only mining out of the rivers, but the amount of pollution created by that industry is very high. And now, with fly ash bricks and carbon specific plastic embedded bricks, we see a lot of impact and green solutions that we can back in the material space. So one key area of focus is recycling of what materials are available to make a more sustainable building material for a growth economy. Economies like India, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, we are highly populous countries. We have, we're going to have what, 100 crore people under the age of 30 by 2030,
Right.
right? And the one universal thing that's constant is the fact that everybody needs a house. And we know this thanks to COVID, right? The donut effect is happening. Yesterday I learned about the donut effect,
No,
right? And
please
it's a
go ahead.
very interesting, knowledge that I was given by a large managing director of a large real estate fund, and he said, what's happening is really the centers of the city are becoming hollow, especially in the west, right? Where you're seeing that the center has a lot of empty space available, and this has become prevalent more and more post COVID. What's happening is people have realized that the need for a sustainable living, the need for a quality sustainable living is very high. So today, a guy doesn't want to travel 2 hours in a Bangalore city to go from, say, Whitefield to X place where he works, so 1.5 hour in traffic. He's saying, or she's saying, that I want to live in Belgaum or Bihar or Kanyakumari or Gujarat and do the same work, right? So the problem statement has changed, right? The problem statement is about sustainability and quality infrastructure to keep security at its best. Of course, this doesn't really apply to all industries. It probably applies to the services industry, which was really driving the growth in commercial real estate, for instance, right? So it's very interesting that the donut effect has meant that residential is growing,
Mm,
but commercial is coming back. I mean, coming down,
mm,
and it's generally on the outskirts of the city where you have better value for money and a better sustainable, you need gardens, you need more of infrastructure. And that's the industry which is galloping. And you see this in India already, right? You see the residential market is buoyant, and the commercial market is slowing down. But in the West, you see this much more. Like in the US, if you see, it's like, San Francisco, there's like, I think, a few million square feet in the center at the CBD, which is empty. And you never saw this after the kind of printing of money that, say, in America did, right? Never in the history have we seen San Francisco or New York go through this kind of a turmoil. So it's really the donut effect which is happening, where people choose to live and work more sustainably with a better quality of work-life balance.
Got it. So, in fact, when I have these conversations with multiple people, it's so interesting that I can connect the dots. Yesterday, I was talking to this entrepreneur from London, and he's building a new kind of property search because of the evolution in customer behavior, how they are moving, and they are looking at options outside the city in the periphery, right? So, just as you mentioned, I wish I knew the name of this effect, donut effect, but I feel that I'm going to clip your audio and his audio and create a new audio, and I call it as the donut effect. He was exactly saying the same, and how he's rebuilding property search for this kind of a trend to capture, because now the interests are more in lifestyle, okay, and not just address but lifestyle, what kind of a lifestyle they want to have for their property and residential needs. Excellent. So you gave us, so by the way, PropTech is so huge and wide. So do you have any preferences, or you're focusing on all types? You mentioned about sustainability, yes. You mentioned about
So
resident.
there are definitely interest areas, right? Democratizing, right? So
What does democratizing mean?
real estate for everybody, right? How can
Fractionalization.
I fractionalization is one piece of it, but you have so many different products that you can make out of real estate, right? Can real estate become a financial, product, much like the equity market, right?
Right.
Can we innovate different kind of products on top of fintech? Can we make real estate fintech is the question really.
Right.
And can we make it more easier for everybody to participate in that? That's a area of huge interest for us.
Right.
uh, but I think the biggest interest would be to see how we can make building materials and green materials, and materials that can help decarbonize, or without impacting our environment, help us grow infrastructure the way India, or the larger part of the world needs, right? Because there is a whole lot of young people both in Asia and Africa that are still building their first homes, and
Mm,
we should be enabling them, and not be preventing them, right? So that's really our thought process.
got it. Talking about sustainability, I just day before yesterday, I was talking to an entrepreneur from Canada, and he's building dwell. This is prefab houses, and they build healthy high performance homes. And for the first time, I'm hearing homes being categorized as healthy and high performance. And primarily, this is, as you said, they do not use concrete, they use sustainable means to build these prefab homes. And that was an interesting conversation. Excellent. So let's
But completing your question, right? So
yeah.
democratization, of course, sustainability, and then also the software element around it, right? Like if we are going to move away and there is a donut effect happening, there is change in the way we're going to work, then we need to build tools and tackles, especially around property being more smart, such that people can actually be doing their work more efficiently, and both security, safety, and infrastructure are aligned for this donut effect, which is happening to continue happening seamlessly. So there's a lot of software play which will come. That's not our number one priority, but it's definitely a priority going forward that we will look to explore, because we feel like that's a product that can be made in India for the world, and we
Mm,
have the techniques to do that. So imagine we are finding solutions for the world from here, right? So
right.
somebody wanting to work from home in, you know, Timbuktu could find a solution here that could solve for their prop tech problems for working from home, and that's really our area of key interest.
Got it. And so also a proper prop tech in Europe, usually now the term is not no more prop tech, it's urban tech. Okay, how it's beyond your homes. Okay, it's not about transforming how you live and your houses, but transforming the cities. So that's why they have enlarged or broadened the definition, and they say smarter cities, right? So do you have interests beyond property and houses towards say smarter cities? Any ideas there?
For sure. I mean, the whole we're in the final stage of backing a platform that can help, manage the carbon footprint for cities and infrastructure colonies, right? Or
Mhm.
projects, and we're trying to see how the government and the regulators can actually participate and create certain sort of a metric which can actually help new developers and construction industries to actually explore and work with a definitive goal to find a way to cut carbon. So uh, urban tech for me or prop tech for me really is a number of technologies, right? There's clean in it. There's the old prop. There's the fintech prop,
Right.
right? There's also now a new work from home related
Hmm.
uh, tech, right? And the city level and the country level targets, right? Because
Uh-huh.
all of our countries, like you said, have actually either committed to some sort of a carbon, commitment.
Right.
I think this will actually become much more prevalent come 2025 when there's a carbon tax being implemented, say in the Netherlands and a few other markets in the
Right.
European epicenter, right? So once that carbon tax becomes prevalent, I think this is going to actually speed up adoption a lot more, lot more, right?
Got it.
So we are kind of bracing for that, especially as India, where we have 100 billion people. No,
Right.
sorry, 100 crore people that need uh, homes,
Right.
and they're all under 30. So this 100 crore demographic is something that we need to protect,
Right.
and we need to give them the access of quality solutions.
Right. So you're right, because I've been on a marathon talking to I'm talking to all kinds of founders from all over.
And I'm sorry for the noise around. Clearly, the guy next door has decided to work overtime.
No, it's not as evident on this side. So, as I was saying, I speak to global founders. In the last month or so, however, I have been on a marathon spree, talking to a lot of Indian founders. And one of my conversation with Square Yards CEO Tanuj, it actually became viral. I did not know he had such massive following, especially because Tarun, Square Yards has a majorly good success in the last couple of years. And he mentioned how India is very different from the rest of the world because of its emerging. It's an emerging country, right? So that means the primary market, new built, is huge. Wherein, like I live in Germany, primarily all the startups that you see, it's not developer oriented. It's primarily resale. Secondary market is more active, and that's where there's immense potential, at least for the next 20-25 years in India, or maybe beyond that, right? Because we are never gonna run out of people buying new built houses. So
So
that's great.
the beauty of India is actually it's equally a secondary market play, right? There's a
Hmm.
primary market, but the secondary market is actually probably 1.2 times the primary market in terms of volume and sale, right? It's very interesting, and people are also upgrading. So one
Hmm.
of the companies that we've backed is a company actually trying to solve this. How do we actually firstly figure out what the right going price in a certain locality
Hmm.
is, right? So they're taking micro markets, giving data around what the per square foot pricing should be, and helping secondary market buyers to only focus on secondary market. And then many of them are upgrading, so there's a business around that as well. So it's amazing how founders are thinking of solutions that are not thought of. So everybody thinks India is our first primary market, but the
Right.
secondary market is 1.2 billion. We have so many dealers across. We have like a million agents in India, a
Right.
million agents
Right.
across the country, length and breadth, right? So how do we empower these guys with better
Right.
ways of not only monetizing what they do,
Right.
but also making it more organized? Some of these
Hmm.
guys cannot even afford a credit card or a home loan because they're transactional. So
Right.
there is so much out there that you can help this whole ecosystem of real estate
Right.
construction infrastructure with. We're at the tip of the iceberg. I think
Oh
there's a
yes,
lot.
we
There's
are,
a
we are
lot.
actually at the tip of the iceberg. You're right.
I
Massive.
know a lot of people think this is a industry which hasn't done justice to it. It's too
Hmm.
early, but we see in the West some companies now gaining great scale. We see in India one or two companies actually being able to disrupt and become profitable, right?
Mm,
at scale, right? And of course, attain that unicorn status. So the prop tech slash urban tech slash construction tech industry is here to stay. It's the world's second largest industry after food, and my view is that as investors of entrepreneurs and as our early stage VC, we are big believers in this super focused area where we believe that a lot of my personal time and one of our team will only focus on everything prop tech. Uh, and in prop tech, obviously themes will be there and we'll align to the themes. But one of our key thesis is that we'd like to be one of the theme setters. So if clean tech and carbon tech in prop tech is going to be the future theme that the world is working towards, then we want to be backing those entrepreneurs who are thinking that way today, not be somebody that actually does a Me Too kind of thought process that there's a
mm,
unicorn in the US and we have to find an Indian equivalent. So we'd rather be the one saying, okay, 5 years from now there's going to be, or 2 years from now there's going to be a carbon tax in Netherlands,
mm.
and and this is the kind of urbanization happening around the world.
Right.
What is the solution that India needs to overcome these kind of potential, changes in the global ecosystem, right? So, and then how can India actually not just provide for itself, but also for the world, because we do have this strength of 100 crore Indians.
Yeah, yeah. Demographic dividend is our strength. That's correct. So you mentioned interestingly secondary market. So my expertise is secondary market because I worked with prop tech companies here in Germany, pan European company, and yeah, there's no primary market here, right? So mostly Europe is saturated. So we were experts on localization. How do you feed in all the data sets that you can have, not just for the property but for your entire neighborhood, and feed that into your AI and ML models, and then come up with automated valuations? Okay, so we call it AVMs, automated valuation models. And then how can you empower the brokers on the in the field that they can generate these deliverables and get mandate from prospects who are willing to buy or transact this? And I have been passing some of this advice because it is still, as you said, barely scratching the surface in India. And some of this concept as AVMs and stuff like that does not apply to primary markets, because primary markets is like one building with 100 units and you don't need an AVM there, right? So these are interesting trends, and as you said, it's barely scratching the surface. An immense potential that I can see in the next 50 years at least. Cool. So let's talk about. So you talked about your mission and where Gruhas wants to play an active role. I think it's very mission oriented. So thanks for sharing that. How are you filling that gap? How are you positioned and differentiate yourself than other VCs in the ecosystem? Like maybe shed some light on how do you function, and what are the kind of operating models that you have?
I think the largest strength I would say that we have is our inherent ability to actually learn from the startup and see whether there is a potential for particular type of new technology idea, product, project being potentially installed and commercialized in the real estate ecosystem or in the construction real estate ecosystem. So one of our strengths, I would say, is the fact that we want to listen to idea makers, we want to listen to product creators and understand whether they can actually scale a business. Having scaled a business myself and my co-founder and the whole team, right, we're very entrepreneurial, entrepreneur friendly. So I think our focus really is to see how can we help them go to market,
Right.
right? And how do we get adoption? Real estate and infrastructure industry doesn't like change. It takes,
Very slow to adapt. Yes.
and we're still one of the laggers, right? Our industry is a lagger in terms of adoption of technology. Look at what's happening with fintech. Look at what's happening with, distribution. Look at
Right.
what's happening with e-commerce, right? But real estate, in that regard, for the size of the market that we are, hasn't even touched, considerable numbers that probably should be the case. So we are a company, or we see which looks at onboarding startups that we can actually help with our connects in the industry,
Right.
and make sure that they are able to find a way to actually prototype and help them take that prototype in commercialization stage and potentially scaling stage. So the advantage I think we bring is core domain experience, along with the domain experience of having built a tech business and a construction business. So we understand both the worlds between our core team, and we try and bring in all these experiences and knowledge to the startup
Right.
for their particular project or particular product, and that's really our strength. Our strength is the go-to market that we build. I'd say, a lot of companies uh, in the ecosystem definitely need this, and I hope that more and more early stage ecosystem in all markets, especially in India, are develop this thesis where we're actually not waiting for the startup to find a way to make money, but and not just looking at burn, but actually looking at profitability and building solid businesses for the future with the impact oriented thesis.
Got it. So just curious. So I've been seeing this. I've been having conversation with so many founders from India. So there's an irony. While India presents massive potential, however, still there are so many prop tech startups that have not seen the potential success that they should have. Right. Many have wrapped up. Many do not see any. Not just revenues, but even the bottom line, the profitability that is required in the current economic situation is not happening. Why is this irony? If there is massive potential, why is the success eluding them?
I think a few things, right? Firstly, they should be applying to us and finding out how we can help them, right? But and we don't need to be investing in them. We're happy to share the little knowledge we have, even without that, right?
Nice.
We're ecosystem creators, so for
Mm,
us, that's critical. But on a most serious note, I think it's important that they understand that they need to go to specific developers or specific market uh, um, adopters for their particular type of problem, right, or solution that they're creating. And,
mm,
and that's something I think a lot of the founders lack, because construction and infrastructure industry really is a slow giant.
mm.
It's a sleeping elephant,
Right.
right? And that's this sleeping elephant is just about waking up. So you need
Mm,
to know how to solve for that, and that really I think is the lacking component and the biggest problem statement to this ecosystem, that the infrastructure and the real estate industry at a larger level is
mm,
very early in the journey to adopting massive changes in technology. But the advantage also at the same time is a lot of young brains in second generation and third generation are now coming into the industry who
right.
intend to do this. So, my 2 cents would be that if there is a way that you can, bridge
Mm,
that gap, then there's a real opportunity for you to start making early signs of revenue and profitability.
mm,
And from there, it's about how the founder, you know, builds that experience and multiplies that experience into a better solution, and then replicates the same. So that first, mile, the first journey of a few crores is where the real challenge is in a market
mm,
like India. But once you get that, and once people believe you can make massive businesses, right? Square Yards is a great example.
right.
We have Infomarket. We have so many other businesses of that
Mm,
sort that have built phenomenal businesses, profitable businesses in a very small duration, right? Five,
right.
7, 8 years.
Right. So I speak to founders mostly. VCs very few, but I have few good global.
I consider myself a founder in the VC ecosystem.
Is it? Nice. Now, so since I've spoken to most founders, I'm also interested to understand how do VCs. I ask a question on how do you position yourself to founders, right? So do VCs also operate like founders? Like, do they also have to position themselves up is there a healthy competition amongst VCs to get the best deals and ideas under them and stuff like that?
100%. I think there is definitely a competition for the best minds, right?
Hmm.
And the best minds have multiple options. There are a
Hmm.
number of VCs, family offices,
Right.
alternative funds that are actually chasing the best ideas and the best companies. I think
Right. Yes. Yes. Because
key, key thing again is what the founder needs of the VC and what the VC is able to bring to the founder, right? Is it capital? Is it advice? Is it access? Is it a bit of all? And then the founder really is the best judge of what he needs.
Hmm.
I think from our perspective, we very clearly, you know, outline the fact that we have Gruhas Aspire, which is an accelerator, right?
Hmm.
It's about finding out what you need, how to go to market, where you are. So that's really your incubation thought process. And there's a growth capital and an early seed capital that we do. And we have solutions for all such sort of opportunities, right? So that's how we try and uh, play into the whole value cycle. And hence a lot of ecosystem comes to us because we're there right at the early stage and up until probably a series B.
Got it. So where are you involved? So are you involved post Series B, or it is pre-seed and
Up,
seed? Up
up
until
until
Series B. Got it. Got it. Up until Series B. So why don't we talk a little bit about Gruhas Aspire, your accelerator program? Like,
sure.
shed some light there.
So Gruhas Accelerator is an accelerator program that we run with the DLF family office and Antil. So what we've done is Gruhas's strengths have come along with India's largest developer, DLF's family office, and Antil, which is a venture accelerator. So we're trying to give the startups the best of all our knowledges,
Hmm.
be it in tech or be it in adoption or be it in knowledge of construction industry. And in this way we're able to incubate some very interesting startups. We found out brick companies they run from the accelerator.
Hmm.
We have a very interesting modular um, homes concept where we can actually build I would say a very what do you call it? In Modcave, we have a company which can actually solve for some of the rehabilitation problems,
Hmm.
in real time. So these are modular, containerized steel homes,
Right.
which we can actually bring into any sort of issues, any sort of problem areas where these guys have helped during COVID with moving hospitals and installed it overnight, right?
Right.
And these are young kids from Nagpur who tried to solve for a problem. So these are the kind of companies we actually give them access to create modular infrastructure,
Hmm.
much like what you were talking about, the one from the west who's doing it sustainably, but these kids are trying to do it with the intention of impact, right? How can we give a very decent and a palatable infrastructure to
Hmm.
people who are unsettled for whatever reasons, right?
Right.
On refugee camps,
Hmm.
and with that. So we get multiple companies. I think the last cohort we got 380 applications. We took seven,
Right.
and six of them have pretty much been successful to raise a follow-on round from there on, right? So
Nice.
the key thing really is to figure out how we can tie them up, say, with a Google or with an Amazon. How can we give them the right credits? How do we impanel them in the Startup India program? How do we give them enough knowledge to figure out a work, a capital need, and where it is in the journey that they are, right? It's
Right.
important that we understand the startup, and at the accelerator we have a core team that does that,
Right.
and then we will bring industry experts from the relevant industries of theirs
Right.
to actually help them and mentor them and take them to market.
Hmm.
So that's really been our journey with some of these companies where we are actually disrupting either solar in industry
Hmm.
with Safe. We're looking at co-living with Slice, and with multiple other companies, right?
Right.
That potentially can actually solve for the needs of the industry going forward. So the Aspire program, Gruhas Aspire program, is very sector agnostic in terms of PropTech.
Mhm.
So any founder with a problem can apply to us, and we, as long as we think that their solution and problem merits the kind of impact or scale that meets our expectations, we generally tend to give them an opportunity to come into the program, and
Got it.
then we help them, and many of them also get funded as well, right? So it's a pre kind of a screening process as well at the same time for us, uh,
Got it.
and an access program for the startup.
Got it. And is there a cohort like it begins at certain point and then ends at a certain point, or how
Yeah,
does it?
it's a 7 month cohort, which tends to sometimes run into 9 months as well, depending on the journey of the startup and how much help they need, right? But we are also learning quickly that startups have problems today, so
Hmm.
we can't make them wait only for the cohort. So
Exactly. Yeah.
sometimes we make the exception. So, for instance, we just taken in, or we're closing one of the startup where it's a Middle Eastern startup which really needs help in
Hmm.
terms of how to go to market,
Right.
but it's phenomenal product guys,
Hmm.
and they wanted to start the cohort immediately, and we made that one exception where even though we do it in a cohort batch, we will start certain companies earlier so
Right.
that they get the help immediately that they deserve, because going to market is something sometimes is time sensitive,
Right.
given the amount of innovation which is happening, and sometimes impact sensitive as well.
Hmm.
So, with both in mind, we tend to make certain exceptions once in a while.
Got it. So there are for especially sustainability, there's a lot of impact funds also, no? So where you get grants from the government. So do you have any such collaboration with the government and stuff like that?
We definitely, depending on where the industry or what kind of an impact the startup is actually aiming to solve or being able to resolve, we tend to ask them to go see those impact funds or claim those impact grants. For instance,
Grants.
we've done a very interesting investment in OSIS.
Hmm.
OSIS is a effluent to hydrogen startup. It's a
Hmm.
PhD mother daughter startup where they have found a solution to finding a hydrogen product out of effluent in industry. And they
Hmm.
first done it with a steel plant, which is one of the highest polluting effluent industries, right? So
Hmm.
and the fact that they've got hydrogen out of it becomes a use case at the
Hmm.
plant itself, right? So this is disruption at its highest, right?
Hmm.
Effluent is a very large problem. You see lakes in Bangalore
Yeah.
which are gone with froth and so on and so forth. So
Right.
this could be a huge change creator,
Got it.
and, and it's products like that that excite us.
Got it. And what happens during that seven? So what's the structure of this program, your accelerator program? How what is the operating model for the 7 months?
Oh, it's very specifically created for the startup, right? So
I see.
every startup has a journey that is devised and created. So while there are some classes which are, you know, uh, a must-have for all,
Hmm.
towards say accounting practices, legal requirements, grant requirements. So you were talking about grants, right?
Right.
Where do you apply for what kind of grants? Startup India missions, right? How do we become Startup India specific? How do we work with PSUs, for instance, right? Like
Hmm.
PSUs are actually using a lot of startups, but startups don't really know, right, how to apply for a tender in the say defense industry. There's a mandate for Indian technology, right? So we tend to give them a lot of these kind of knowledges. We have a drone
Hmm.
company which was doing mapping of
Hmm.
cities, but didn't realize that there were tenders for them, and we actually helped them actually understand how to actually potentially apply
Hmm.
to these government projects, right? And now has been able to really disrupt. that industry in terms of how efficiently they're building these drones in
Mm,
India, in Delhi, and finding a solution for the greater good in terms of mapping India better. And
mm.
hopefully, this will help with agri, will help with transport, and there are so many use cases around the drone industry towards prop tech.
Nice. Could you shed some light on your on your portfolio, current portfolio, and maybe name a few exciting ones that you are, or is it hard to name one of your children's?
I'd say that. I'd say I love all my startups, right?
Mm,
And I'm keen that each one of them actually scales,
correct,
grows, and impacts the way they deserve they should.
correct.
I think the thing that I would say is one of the things that excites us is the quality of entrepreneurs we've interacted with.
Mm,
Each one of them brings so much to the table.
right.
They're hungry, they're aspirational, they're driven by cause,
Mm,
right? And they come from all parts of the world, including India, of course.
right.
So for us, we're actually blessed in a world where new ideas, technologies, and startups have such a big voice
Mm,
like never before. And India, alongside some of the Western countries, but India is really leading this revolution where
mm,
we are much more accepting of the startup ecosystem. I think our Prime Minister has also played a huge role. Prime Minister Modi has been a huge advocate, and Startup India has really helped echo the sentiment to really the smallest village in India, right?
right.
So I feel like this is a great start, and for us, all the startups are that we have in our cohorts or that we have funded are a journey by itself, and
Correct.
it would not be right on my part. But I have shared some startup
Yeah, yeah, sure,
cases through this discussion. So please go to gruhas.com, Gruhas, and I'm
sure.
sure you'll be able to see our 5 C's thought process.
Sure. So, what kind of? I'm sure there is idea which you which you back, but I'm sure it's not just not the idea, but also the rest of the things, right? Like what kind of founders and ideas that you back? Is it the team? Do you see the drive? Do you see how much relevant experience they have? What are some of your investment ideology before you decide to back somebody?
A key metric would be a few for sure. One would be
Mhm.
founders. I think the pedigree of founders, drive and idea are probably key for us, followed alongside equally by uh, what is the market, how deep is the market, or what is the need in the market, all right? Either or. So we tend to go very focused in understanding what the potential of the market is.
Mm,
So while the entrepreneur does his bit on the product side and his drive side, I think equally is our responsibility to understand this problem statement, right? And if the problem is relevant enough, then we definitely look to solve for such or enable such startups with growth capital for them to be able to
mm,
be winners, right? These two for me are the most prevalent um, drivers for our investment thesis, but there is a whole host of maybe 30, 40 other criterias, but these two really become the key interest areas for us.
got it. Cool. I think I'm done with most of the questions. My last question here is how do the next few years look for you for Gruas?
I think again we are on the tip of the iceberg, right? Like we are what we are 2 years old now
Right.
in our
Yeah.
journey, and I consider myself as a founder in the VC ecosystem, right? We
Mm,
work with startups the same way we want to grow them, and the way we see them is we try to understand problems, and this really means that our journey has just begun, and as long as we have, we'd hope to back path leaders, path breakers, guys and girls who are passionate
mm,
and strong believers that can impact the whole ecosystem for the data good. So in my mind, the next 10, 20 years is India's, and we are looking forward to being participating in that.
But would you widen your portfolio with say at any
We
given point of time like?
we have, while I look at PropTech,
Mhm.
we also realize that there's so many overlaps today. So we
Mm,
have a five C's concept, and maybe we can, conclude with that. With the five
sure.
C's,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
is uh, contact. PropTech is now contact because there's everything to do with construction,
Mhm.
urban infrastructure, property, real estate.
Right.
Clean tech, I think clean tech is imperative in every one of these elements,
Mm.
right? So contact, clean tech, creator tech, you know,
Creator tech. Hmm.
yeah. So then we pivot because,
Hmm.
in all of this we have consumption, creator, and content.
Hmm.
Right? Like a home today is very different from yesterday. Right? The
Right.
amount of content that we actually use is huge and has
Hmm.
a direct bearing on the kind of home we make.
Right.
And then consumption is the core.
Right.
100 crore Indians. You
Hmm.
know, I was fortunate enough to meet one of the chairmen of a very, very large bank, in fact, arguably India's largest bank, right? And I asked him, sir, you disrupted the home industry in the early 80s, 90s, 2000s. And till now, you do that. You're a leader in this pack. What would you do today,
Hmm.
right? What would you do today? Would it be housing finance again? And he said, my boy, housing was the need 80 years ago or 20 years ago, my bad. Uh, and it's still a need, but consumption is a bigger need. I would do
Hmm.
consumption. So it was very interesting to see how he saw the demographic change, right,
Right.
and the needs from the 3 to 5 trillion and the 5 to 10 trillion that India is going to go through, uh,
Hmm.
because there is home and there is consumption. So which is why we've gone into consumption, content, and creator as another theme that another partner of mine will look at.
Excellent. Well, this brings us to the end of a very thought-provoking conversation with Abhijeet. Abhijeet, we unpacked a lot of topics today on this, so I cannot thank you enough for taking time out and sharing your wealth of knowledge with us, with our listeners as well.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
so much,
much.
Ravi, for having me. And do send me all these great startups that you're talking to, both domestic and global.
We'll do that, Abhijeet. Sure.
Thank
See you
you.
around. Bye bye.
Ciao.